I was always certain that science could explain everything, even the most inexplicable mysteries, even the ghost stories whispered around flickering fires on winter nights. To me, they were symptoms, hallucinations, delusions, echoes of psychological fractures. But certainty is fragile. It shattered at 3 a.m. when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to a man named Leo, pale, drenched in sweat despite the cold, trembling as if the air itself were chasing him. "Please," he begged, "I need your help now." Inside, I watched him. His eyes darted like he was tracking something I couldn't see. When he finally spoke, his voice was a thread. "I see the dead, doctor." I almost laughed. Classic delusion? Schizophrenia? Trauma? But then I looked into his eyes. They weren't the wild, unfocused eyes of a patient. They were haunted, like he'd seen something that carved its way into his soul. "A year ago," he said, "they started appearing. Faint faces in the streets, just staring. I thought I was going mad, but they got closer, started talking, asking for things I didn't understand. 'Do you speak to them?' I asked, scribbling notes. 'If I don't, they follow me, even into sleep.' His account was too precise, too coherent. Patients with psychosis rarely describe their visions with such clarity. My pen froze. What if this wasn't a disorder? Then he asked, 'Do you see anyone here now?' I hesitated. He turned slowly, fixing his gaze on the left corner of the room. 'There's a woman behind you, wet hair, drowned, smiling. She never blinks.' A coldness slithered down my spine. I spun around. Empty space. But the chill lingered, burrowing into my bones. 'Come to my clinic tomorrow,' I said, voice tight. He smiled, a hollow, broken thing. 'I won't live until tomorrow. They told me I'm next.' He left. I didn't stop him. The next day I went to his address. An elderly woman answered, her voice brittle. 'Leo died a week ago, drowned. We never found his body.' Back home, I sat in the dark, repeating he saw the dead, but he didn't tell me he was one. Sleep didn't come. My mind clawed at itself, trying to rationalize. But walls had collapsed inside me. I felt it, a veil torn away, revealing something vast and wrong beneath reality. Then the call came. Mia, my neurologist colleague. "Sam, we have a case. A man named Mark. He's raving about seeing the dead." At the hospital, Mark sat in the glass isolation room, staring at the wall with a cold smile. When I entered, he didn't blink. "I know you," he said. "You talked to Leo. He sent me. Said you'd believe me. My blood turned to ice." "He's right," Mark whispered. "They're stuck, doctor. Each one needs something. A confession, a favor, vengeance." He pointed to a corner. "See that girl? She's crying, always crying." I stared, nothing. But then, a sound. A child's sob, faint and wet, like it was rising from under the floor. "What did Leo want?" I forced out. "To find his body. He's trapped at sea. You didn't help him." A knock, software deliberate, on the glass. Then a whisper at my ear. "Save me." I whirled. Empty hallways. Mia's voice. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I almost laughed. Ghosts? Number worse than ghosts. On the drive home, I saw them. Figures at intersections, motionless, silent. They stared at me with the same glassy eyes Leo had described. I closed my eyes for a moment, but they didn't vanish. I returned home and decided to reopen Leo's file. I went to the police archive and found a confirmed report of his death. Drowned during a storm, no body recovered. But the file included one final photo taken by a security camera before he vanished. In it, he stood at my doorstep, smiling at the lens. That night, I didn't close my eyes again. Something inside me had changed, or rather, something had awakened. I sat in my clinic reviewing patient notes, but my mind fixated on Leo's smile. How had he reached my door? Why me? Was there a connection between us beyond coincidence? My thoughts were interrupted by a call from an unknown number. A faint, trembling female voice whispered, "Doctor, Sam, the body is at the old dock." Before I could respond, the line went dead. I didn't hesitate. I threw on my coat and drove to the abandoned dock, a place closed for years after a mysterious fire, now a desolate zone. I arrived at midnight. Darkness clung to the air, thick with the stench of rot and salt. I stepped cautiously among charred wood and rusted ships. Then I saw it, a corpse floating at the edge of the dock, half submerged in black water. The other half looked freshly unearthed. As I approached, my heart racing, I swear the body opened its eyes and stared at me. I recoiled. The air turned suffocating. A familiar voice echoed behind me. "Now, I can rest." I turned. Leo stood there, his same face, his same smile, but translucent, dissolving into the air. "Thank you, doctor. My journey ends, but yours begins." My journey? A gift, not a curse. You see them now, don't you? You were chosen. Few can understand the dead, the ones who died in pain, regret, or with words left unsaid. They're stuck, searching for someone to see them, hear them, deliver their messages. He smiled one last time, then faded like ash in the wind. Before vanishing, he whispered, "There are those who won't let you finish this journey. They'll try to stop you before you reach the last city." What city? But he was gone. Back home, I jotted in my journal, "The last city." Who doesn't want me to continue? Why me? Then I heard a faint knock at the window. I looked. There stood a man, head tilted, face bloodied, eyes wide and unblinking. I rushed to the window, but no one was there. Inside, written in red on the mirror like blood, "You've seen. You won't leave this world alive." Since that night, I've never been alone. I see them, in room corners, behind closed doors. They watch silently, whispering in voices that aren't human. Words not spoken, but planted in my chest like cold thorns. The next morning, I found a black envelope on my clinic floor. No name, no address, sealed with red tape. Inside, a single page. The first request, Sophia, who died in the psychiatric hospital in 2007. She'd screamed nightly that her daughter had been stolen. Doctors called her mad. Help her before she takes you with her. The name wasn't unfamiliar. I searched the hospital archives and found her file. Patient number 197, 31 years old, admitted after a nervous breakdown, died 6 months later of a sudden heart attack. Notes repeated, she believes her daughter is alive but hidden. Something in the file made me shudder. I decided to visit the hospital by myself. I arrived in the afternoon. The building loomed as it always had, grim, silent, as if waiting. I wandered its decaying wings until reaching the sealed Ward 13, where Sophia had been confined. The door was wooden, rusted, marked Room 13, unused. I opened it. The room was unnaturally cold. The walls were covered in scribbles, not writing, but drawings of a small crying child. Suddenly, a woman sobbing pierced the air. "They took her from me. They buried her alive." No one believed me. I spun around. No one. But the cold deepened, snow brushing my neck. Then she appeared, a pale woman in a white hospital gown, hair hanging over her face, eyes sunken in darkness. She stood before me, extending her hand. "Reveal the truth. Make them know what they did to me." She vanished. In her place lay an old file I hadn't noticed before. Inside, photos and reports of a newborn's adoption, dated the same day as Sophia's daughter's birth. The location? A psychiatrist at the hospital. Dr. Adam, retired years ago. Back home, clutching the file, I knew. Spirits don't lie. Something rotten happened in that hospital. That night, I dreamed of Sophia running down a long corridor with her infant, chased by doctors in white coats. "This is my daughter! This is my daughter!" They tore the child from her arms. I woke in terror. On my wall, blood-red words, "The beginning. You chose the path." Since returning from the hospital, I've felt something following me. At first, faint footsteps at night, then muffled sobs like a child weeping behind walls. Doors I closed now open on their own. Papers scattered. But tonight was different. At 3 a.m., I awoke to a rhythmic knocking, thud, 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 coming from beneath the floorboards. Not a dream. The sound came from under the living room floor. I knelt, pressed my ear to the wood. Clear now. A person striking a wall from within. A voice hissed, "Let them out! Open the door! "Open it, Sam!" I leapt back. My mind screamed, "Am I mad? Has this gift become a curse?" But I wasn't mad. I went to my clinic, locked the door, and searched for Dr. Adams' address. After hours, I found it in an old archive. He lived in a remote area on the city's edge. I arrived at dawn. He opened the door, thin, in his 70s, with the gaze of a tired wolf. His eyes had seen unspeakable things. "You're Mr. Sam, you're late." Inside, the house was bleak, windows sealed, reeking of decay. He sat across from me. "They chose you as they chose me. Voices no one heard, the dead no one believed. Sophia was only one. There was a system, stealing infants from psychotic patients, selling them to childless families. Sophia was a witness. I was part of it." He lowered his head. "It wasn't one case, it was a network." Then he lifted his trembling eyes. "And now, my turn." The investigation cited an accidental electrical fire, no criminal suspicion. Cold words repeated in cases like these. But the file attached to the black envelope was shocking. Photographs from inside the clinic showed fire damage. But there was one detail no one noticed. Jack's room had been locked from the outside with a steel padlock. How? Why? Was the fire deliberate? Had he been a prisoner, not a patient? The next day, I decided to visit the clinic. It sits in a remote area atop a low mountain outside Cairo. When I arrived, the clinic was completely shut down, a small sign reading, "Closed for administrative reasons," but I no longer needed permission. I sneaked in through the back gate. The building was abandoned, but the smells remained, the stench of burning and something else indescribable, as if the souls trapped there still lingered. I entered the old patient's wing, stopping at room 7. Its door was broken, walls blackened by fire. Suddenly, a voice behind me. "They burned me because I knew. Because I saw them inject us with strange things." I turned. A thin man stood there in a charred shirt, half his face melted, the other half still alive, staring at me with wide, bloodshot eyes. They called me mad, but I wasn't hallucinating. I saw reality, the truest reality. He stepped closer. It all began there. Room 11 on the ground floor. That's where they tested the silent session. I went to room 11. It was sealed with sturdy wooden planks, but not enough to stop me. I broke through. The room was covered in wall drawings, circles, eyes, meaningless words. In the corner sat an old metal box. Inside, a vintage tape recorder and a cassette labeled Session Number 4, Next Experimental. Back home, I played the tape. Jack's trembling voice filled the room. "I feel my body isn't mine anymore. Something lives inside me. A voice speaks. Not mine. It demands things." Then silence. After moments, another voice. Deep, faint, not human. "You won't tell anyone. We'll burn together." Sudden screams, fire, crackling, then laughter. The tape ended. On the back of the recorder, a note. "You're next, Doctor. Sam Mansour. Stop, or we'll silence you forever." The air grew heavier. My phone rang. No one spoke, but a voice hissed clearly from the receiver. "You opened the door, Ayad. Don't retreat now." I replayed the tape dozens of times as searching for clues, but what unsettled me most wasn't the words. It was the final sound. Laughter. Familiar. As if I'd heard it before. I searched for Dr. Alex in psychiatric databases, but found no records, no trace, as if he never existed. Yet, in an old clinic report, a marginal note. Session supervision, Dr. Alex. That was all. I turned to my journalist friend, who works at a private newspaper archive. After 2 hours sifting through newspapers between 2003 and 2020, he found a small article from 2005. Suspicious death of psychiatrist Alex, burned in his car in a deserted area near city, body fully charred. Investigation closed due to lack of evidence. The attached photo was eerie, a charred corpse in a car, but faintly reflected in the shattered glass was a face that should have been dead. Clear despite the flames, a smiling face. I printed the photo, compared it to the voice from the next tape. The laugh, the smile, identical. I returned to my friend. "Can a death certificate be forged?" Can a suicide be staged as murder? He hesitated. Only if the killer holds more power than the state. A pause. There's an old rumor about Alex. They said he died more than once. I stared. What do you mean? He whispered. An internal report deleted from papers after one day. A patient claimed he recognized Alex's photo, said he treated him in 1987, but Alex's death was reported in 1983. Alex, a man who died more than once, or never died at all. Back at my clinic, I found a handwritten note on the door. You're close to the truth. Closer. That night, I had the worst dream of my life. I stood in an autopsy room. On the table, a charred corpse. It moved, stood, walked toward me. Before reaching me, it spoke in Alex's voice. I don't burn. I return. I woke to a fire alarm in my clinic. Walls smothered in black smoke, though there was no fire. On the wall, faint gray words. Silent session number 13. New subject, Dr. Sam. In that moment, I understood. I wasn't investigating old crimes. I was part of the experiment. And now my session had begun. The next morning, I found all my patient files gone. Even personal records, certificates, photos. Someone had reorganized my life, erased my existence. I went to the doctor's union to check my name. No trace, as if I'd never been a doctor. Panic set in. Could someone erase you from the system, from collective memory, make the world forget you ever existed? Yes. When I returned home, my apartment was open. The interior unnaturally clean, sharp disinfectant smell. The mirror in the hallway was covered in strange symbols. On the bed, a small box containing an old recorder and a note. Subject number 13, Doctor. Sam, your session begins now. I press play. My own voice, speaking words I didn't remember. I see them everywhere, hear their footsteps in the walls. Dr. Alex isn't human. It's something else. Trying to copy us, erase our minds, replace them with its code. The voice cut. Another followed, deep, metallic. We don't erase. We reset. I fled. Drove to a remote village from my childhood. Even there I saw them. Men in black coats watching from afar. Every time I approached, they vanished. One night, my hotel phone rang. I answered. My baby, come back. Stay in the session. My mother's voice, but she'd died 2 years ago. A text followed from an unknown number. To end it all, return to Mountain Clinic. The final session awaits. I went. No choice. Entered the clinic again, but it wasn't as I'd left it. Clean, bright, ordered, as if it had never been abandoned. In the session room sat Alex. No burns, no disfigurement, just dead hollow eyes. Well done, Sam. You're the first to reach the end willingly. Now we'll complete your copying. He muttered incomprehensible words. Suddenly my mind tore apart. Memories cascading, voices blending. I saw myself as a child, then an old man, then something faceless. Darkness. I woke in a modern clinic wearing a patient's gown. A nurse entered gently. Good morning, doctor. Alex, do you remember who you are today? I looked in the mirror. My face, but not mine. I was him. A new copy of Alex. No one escapes the session. Those who near death become part of it. Now I begin my sessions with new patients. Record their confessions. Choose the next subject. Are you ready?